Welcome one and welcome all. I'm your host Top Gear Tim, and week 2 of qualifiers for the UKC has successfully been completed, and man, it was just a packed weekend. We had some of the best matches I've ever seen. We had some close calls, some upsets, some first times, just a bunch of crazy matches that happened. So let's just jump right into it. I'm going to go ahead and do the free-for-all matches first and then do the 2v2s. So the first free-for-all match we have here is Ash46 Desync, Jadigifer7, Tuner Mark, and Top Gear Tim. Now Jadigifer starts off with the crown, but not long into the match, it's Ash who takes the crown and immediately puts 2 minutes on the clock, and it's already looking like the other three are fighting for that second place, which is crazy. This is the first time we've seen Tuner Mark face adversity here. He's always been that dominant player, always running away with the crown, but not this time. Top Gear Tim and Jadigifer both seem to have an off game here, as they had a combined time of less than 2 minutes. We hate to see it, but no shame in losing to players such as Ash or Tuner Mark. Top Gear Tim does hang on for a little bit, within about 30 seconds of second place within the first few minutes, but it was Ash who ultimately keeps running away with the crown, racking up over 4 minutes over the course of the match. But Tuner, not to be outdone, makes a run near the end and accumulates 3 minutes of his own, putting him in that second place, and Top Gear Tim and Jadigifer finished 3rd and 4th respectively. There were 27 tags during this match, but nonetheless an absolutely dominant performance by Ash, and Tuner definitely took notice of this one. Next up we have Spec R, DH Yukio, Jack Beam, and Gothic Unicorn, but Gothic could not make it, so we had Trailline as a replacement here. Yukio starts off with the crown here, and in the first few minutes it looked like a close battle for that first place, but it's Spec who kicks it into high gear and starts walking away with the crown. It's now a battle for second place between Yukio and Jack here, as at around halfway through the game they were within about 10 seconds of each other, but then it's Yukio who kicks it into high gear himself, gets his longest consecutive run as a king, over 1 minute and 40 seconds, and though Spec had a 2-minute lead at first, Yukio was able to come back and pass Spec with just 1 minute left on the board, a true display of exactly why Yukio is a top 5 prospect. Yukio takes first with over 4 minutes, and Spec taking second place with 3.5 minutes of his own. Jack Beam and Trailline take 3rd and 4th respectively, and there were 26 tags during this match. And ladies and gentlemen, this match, and even the previous one, is a perfect example of good king players versus the best king players in the world. Regardless, what a huge comeback by Yukio, an absolutely impressive performance, and same with Spec as well. Tough game for both Jack and Trailline, but I know they will be back to climb the ranks in the future. Next up, it's Speed05, Enter Tokyo, Autocycle, and Fetching Odin, but Fetching Odin could not make it, so he was replaced by Rayma 500. And guys, when I say this is the best match I've seen in Forza Horizon 5, I mean, this is probably in the top 5 matches of all time that I've ever personally seen in any Horizon game. Before I was even able to make it to the spectating spot, there were already 2 king changes. Okay, every single one of these players were playing out of their minds here. The biggest gap between first and last place during the entire game was 1 minute. That's it, and that's just for one singular instant. Most of the match was within 30 seconds of between first and fourth. It was literally anybody's game the entire game. I mean, usually one person gets a good run or something like that and walks away. Nobody was running away from anybody here. It was just literally anybody's game. Autocycle is the one who starts off with it. Then it's Speed who was able to get a tag. Then Tokyo comes in for a steal right after that. Then it's Rayma who gets a tag. And within just the first minute, everybody has had the crown for at least 10 seconds. If I tried to do every player justice in this game, it would take the entire 10-minute game for me to do so. But we do have to move on here, and I just want to give a massive round of applause to each and every single one of these 4 players for an amazing, outstanding performance, each and every one of them. But we do have to move on, like I said. So at the halfway point of the game, the gap between first place and last place was 10 seconds, okay? That was at the halfway point of the game. Again, I don't even know how to call this match because it was anybody's game, like I said. And then a little bit later into the match, it was Tokyo who was the first player to break that 2-minute barrier, and then it was Speed who gets that 2-minute mark about maybe a minute later or so, and then it's Rayma who hits the 2 minutes, and then shortly after, Autocycle hits 2 minutes with about 30 seconds remaining. Now, with 30 seconds remaining, Tokyo has 2 minutes and 51 seconds, and he is safe. The worst he could place is second place, but for everybody else, there is still enough time to snag that second place, currently held by Speed 05. Then it's Reima who swipes the crown from Autocycle right before he could pass her. 30 seconds remaining. Speed is 20 seconds ahead of Reima. Reima is able to create some space, but almost traps herself, but is able to make it around the corner and into the tubes, where she nearly gets tagged, but is able to make it out of there and keeps it for the rest of the match, and edges out Speed by just 8 seconds, putting her in second place, Speed in third place, and Autocycle in fourth place. There were 36 tags during this game. Just an absolutely incredible match. Like I said, one of the best I've ever seen. The gap between first place and last place at the end of the game was 50 seconds. Like I said, one of the absolute best matches that I have ever witnessed. Just a huge round of applause to each and every one of these players. Thank you very much for an amazing, incredible match. Now for the final free-for-all match, it was supposed to be Aleski 4200, Uber's Backpo, Mark III Mini Alex, and El Father Mex. I do feel like this had also potential to be one of the best matches on this card, but both Mark III Mini Alex and Uber's Backpo, both top 10 players, were unable to make it. So with that being said, we had Seul Mick, aka Kim, and Overdrift King as replacements for both of those players. And both of them had, pretty tough losses last week, so this is their chance to come back. So it's Kim that actually starts off with the crown, and she did have some trouble getting into arena here, but she was able to keep a lot of the time because she had trouble, and she started off with the crown, so it kind of evens out. But it was Aleski who takes off with the crown and immediately gets 2 minutes on the board. And now it was the battle for second place for ODK, Kim, and Mex. A very close battle for second place. They were all within about 40 seconds of each other. But Aleski puts a stop to that battle and gets another crazy run and puts over 5 minutes on the clock before losing it to ODK in the last minute of the game, which allowed him to rack up over 2 minutes of his own, taking that second place. And Kim takes third, and El Father Mex takes that fourth place finish. 18 tags in this match, and the absence of Alex and Uber definitely played a big factor in the results here. But one, this again shows the difference between a good player and one of the best players in the world. And two, we much rather have a match of 4 than 3 or an automatic advancement with 2 players. So we had to get these replacements in, but nonetheless, so far Aleski is undefeated. He is 2-0. He's the only person in the league right now who is undefeated in free-for-all. With a 2-0, he has a perfect record. And the only person who actually improved on his already dominant performance in the first week, this week. He had over 4 minutes the first week, and he put over 5 minutes this week. An absolutely dominant performance by Aleski here. So that is it for the free-for-all matches this week. So we'll go ahead and jump right into the 2v2 matches. However, the match between Oddegod and Jadigifer versus Autocycle and Aleski did not happen, as Jadigifer and Oddegod were unable to make it. However, Aleski and Autocycle were both online when they were supposed to be on Sunday, the last day of the qualifying. So unfortunately, they do automatically move on. I hate doing that. We always want to see a match happen before there's an advancement, but we do have to move on, so that is how we are going to move on from here. But of course, Oddegod and Jadigifer will get their chance to move up in the ranks, and I'm sure they will make waves in this league. So with that being said, our first 2v2 match was the team of @McNoob, aka Miranda, and Overdrift King versus Spec R and DH Yukio, with Miranda and Yukio being the runners for their team, and Spec and ODK being the blockers. Now, Spec starts off with the crown, so there's no deduction since he is a blocker, and he gets a pass off to Yukio right away, but Miranda does swipe it instantly pretty much, and is able to walk away with it a little bit. But that did not last too long, as Yukio comes in and swipes it off of Miranda again, and racks up 3 minutes before even half of the match is over. And although there was enough time for Miranda and ODK to catch up at this point, the combination of the running by Yukio and the blocking by Spec was just simply too much for ODK and Miranda, and Yukio finishes with over 6.5 minutes, taking the win for his team. And there were 16 tags during this match. Credit to Miranda though, as she racks up almost 2 minutes of her own, a respectable performance against a top 4 team in the world here. Still an absolutely amazing match. Next up, we have the team of the Black Asian and Uber's Backpo versus Top Gear Tim and F50, aka Panda, with Black Asian and Top Gear Tim being the runners for each team, and Panda and Uber being the blockers. Panda does start off with the crown here, so no deductions there since he is the blocker, and Top Gear Tim gets off to a flying start and racks up almost 4 minutes right off the bat. He does get tagged by Uber about halfway through the match, and there is plenty of time for Asian to catch up, but Panda's blocking proved to be too much as Asian did not get a single tag off of Top Gear Tim or Panda, and Top Gear Tim finishes the game with over 6 minutes on the board, taking the victory for their team, and Asian and Uber takes that second place. There were 24 tags in this match, but most of it were passes between Panda and Top Gear Tim, and now it was actually Uber who seemed to give Top Gear Tim the most trouble, as he was the one taking the crown off of him for the most part. So personally, I do believe that it would have been a much different story if Uber was the runner and Asian was the blocker, but I'm sure they will come back better and stronger the next time they compete, and I know they'll be back to compete to move up the ranks. And finally, we have the team of Ash46 Desync and Speed05 versus Tuner Mark and Bernie P Game 7, with Tuner and Speed being the runners for their team and Ash and Bernie being the blockers. Now, we saw in that first free-for-all match that Ash was actually able to give Tuner some trouble, and it proved to be kind of the same here. Bernie starts off with it, so again, no deductions since he is a blocker. Tuner is quickly able to get the crown, but gets stopped by Speed, who makes a decent run, but Tuner is on the chase, making sure that he avenges himself in this round. Tuner does get a run and puts 2 minutes on the competition, but it's actually Ash who puts a stop to that run and allows Speed to gain some time. And fast forward to about halfway through the match is Tuner Mark with nearly 3 minutes on the board, and Speed only has just over a minute. But Speed gets an incredible run in the later half of that match and gets 3 minutes of his own. Tuner again faced with adversity here, which is so rare to see, but this time Tuner makes a massive run in the end and keeps it for the last minute and a half of the game, racking up nearly 5 minutes for himself, and Speed racking up 3 minutes of his own, and 29 tags were made during this game. Another great matchup, amazing performance by Speed and Ash, and in my opinion, I think if Ash was the runner and Speed was the blocker, they probably could have walked away with the victory here, but still an incredible match, amazing to see. And wow, what a packed weekend that was. Again, some of the greatest matches that I've ever seen happen just in this week. So I'm so excited to see what comes up next week, and when the league even officially starts, I'm so stoked to see what is in store for us in the upcoming weeks. Now, like last week, I did have the pleasure of watching and spectating every one of these games, or being a part of every one of these games, so it was quite the show for me as well. And for the King players, thank you so much for coming out and participating. You guys gave us fantastic matches this week. Again, I want to thank each and every one of you, especially those 4 people in that one free-for-all match. You guys know who I'm talking about. That was an incredible match. I can't stress that enough. And again, if you are just a regular viewer and you're not a King player, I hope these are entertaining enough for you guys for you to stay and keep watching for the upcoming matches. I am super excited to see them myself, and tune in on Friday to see Panda's predictions, to see what he thinks will happen in week 3 of qualifying, where we have the 2v2 advancements, the free-for-all advancements, and for the first time 1v1 qualifying. Yes, 1v1 is coming up next week. I'm super excited for that as well, so make sure to tune in for that whenever it comes out. Alright, I've been your host, Top Gear Tim. Thanks for joining me here in week 2 qualifying results, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.